Hello people of the internet. So recently I've been looking to buy a new laptop. This Black Friday 2020. Today is the 29th of November 2020, and I've been principally looking at two laptops. The Dell XPS 15 9500 2020 edition, and the Lenovo X1 Extreme Gen 3 over here. Both laptops have their advantages and disadvantages. Obviously the Lenovo's got a beautiful keyboard and better port selection. There's a USB-A plugged in here, and whereas the Dell XPS has this beautiful thin bezel display, very thin bezels, no chin at all on the bottom. This is well reviewed stuff. There's loads of comparison videos online and reviews about these two laptops. Some of them are comparing. So I've been doing some benchmarks, and I've ordered both, and I'm just going to send the one I don't want back. Seems to be the most reasonable way to go. So these models are more or less comparable. The Extreme over here has the i7 10850H CPU, 6 cores, 12 threads, and the XPS is the i7 10750H CPU, 6 cores, 12 threads. Now these CPUs are pretty much exactly the same. The 850 in the Lenovo just has vPro extensions. This is actually a work laptop. And they're more or less identical except for the vPro. The Lenovo has a very marginal base clock increase. I think it says here at 2.72 gigahertz, whereas this is 2.6, but that's just the base clock. And the turbo boost on the Lenovo is like 100 megahertz higher. It's 200 megahertz. I think it's 5.3 instead of 5 or 5.1. Anyway, the very marginal differences between these two laptops. So anyway, I've been running some basic benchmarks and tests on these two laptops as of today, and updated the BIOS on both of them. So the X1 Extreme Gen 3 here is running BIOS version 1.11, and the Dell XPS 15 9500 2020 version is running BIOS version 1.4. And these are the current BIOS versions as of today. The Dell XPS in particular, the 1.4 version release of the BIOS, actually says it optimizes skin temperatures in the changelog. So I think they've changed the thermals recently. So anyone looking to buy these two laptops, this is the current state of these two laptops as far as I'm aware. So they're both running Windows 10, and I've made sure that there's no background tasks running at all on these. There's nothing soaking up performance from one and not the other. They were pretty much idle when I ran these tests, and I've been running the Cinebench R23 test for 30 minutes. Anyway, to cut the bottom line, I'm finding on the X1 Extreme Gen 3, which is a very noisy laptop. There's actually the exhaust is actually turn on some lights. It's actually in here. So the exhaust for the fans is hidden in the hinge here. So if you put your hand over the join here when the laptop's really working, you can feel the hot air coming up the top. Whereas on the Dell, it's similar actually, but you can't seem to feel it so much over here. I don't know what's going on there. But in Cinebench R3 on the X1 Extreme, I'm getting about 7,745 points multi-core and about 1,300 points single core. That gives you a multi-processing ratio of 5.8, which is kind of what you'd expect with a 6-core CPU, right? Oddly enough, on the Dell XPS with BIOS version 1.4, I'm only getting a multi-core CPU score of anywhere between 5,793 and the low 7,000s. Sometimes it's the low 7,000s, sometimes it matches up over here, but sometimes it averages in the 6,000s, which isn't too bad. Expect some variation. But what's really sucking here is the single core speed. It's only 681 points, and this seems to be pretty consistent, which is, you know, it's almost half of what the I'm getting on the X1 Extreme Gen 3. And you can see this is reflected in the multi-processing ratio of 8.5, and I'm seeing this go to like 9 and close, you know, 9.5 sometimes. So what I'm seeing with the Dell XPS is very inconsistent test results. This is the test running for 10 minutes. I've run it for 30 minutes. It doesn't seem to make a difference. And I'm seeing that also on the XPS, whereas on the Lenovo X1, I'm seeing very consistent results. So I'm not really sure why or what Dell are doing here to foul up the performance of this laptop now. Maybe it's this recent BIOS release, I'm not sure. As I said, I have double checked to make sure there's nothing running in the background. Antivirus scans and things like that. There's really not much going on here. It's nothing at all really. And nothing running in the tray either. So I thought that people on the internet might appreciate an update on sort of November 2020 performance comparison between these two laptops. If you're thinking about buying one of them this holiday season. In terms of other aspects of the laptops, I'm really undecided about the which one to buy. I mean, the Lenovo is much more expensive. I managed to get the Dell XPS fully kitted out with 64 gigs of RAM and an 8-core CPU. That's not this one right here. I'm sending this one back, but I've ordered another one with an 8-core CPU and 64 gigs of RAM for £2,000 sterling, British sterling pounds. And that's including a 4-year extended warranty. That was on the Dell outlet the other day with Black Friday offer. So that was a very good price. The Dell the Lenovo X1 Extreme is very expensive. To get a similar, actually you can't even order the 8-core version in the UK. You have to opt for the Lenovo P1 Gen 3, which is basically the same laptop. The P1 comes with Quadro graphics, whereas the X1 Extreme comes with the nice X1 logo on the top and regular GeForce graphics. So one other thing I want to mention about this, I'm in a room with a window directly behind my work desk, and I have an incandescent bulb at the moment. Need to improve the lighting, and obviously there's a difference in color between these two laptops. So in terms of screen, they're both at full brightness at the moment. And this is the 4K screen for the Dell XPS, which only comes in one option. It's an IPS panel. And this is actually the 4K in the X1. This is actually the 4K IPS panel, not the OLED. And I don't know if you can see this, but to me the colors here seem a bit more murky. I think this is supposed to be factory calibrated to be more accurate for like photography and stuff, whereas this Dell XPS is actually set to vibrant. If I actually change the color scheme, color profile, color management, it's got Dell Premier Color. It comes with this Dell Premier Color software. It's not relevant to me because I'm gonna probably be installing Linux in the end anyway. But if we go to profiles and select photo, and colors brightness has gone down, but put the brightness back up. It's actually still better. There is a color setting, a color profile setting on the Dell XPS that's very similar to the yeah, maybe that one. it's a bit more similar. But anyway, the IPS panel on the Dell seems to be a lot more vibrant and colourful than the matte 4K display on the X1 Extreme, and obviously it's not quite as nice because it's got a bit of a chin. But I'm looking to probably keep this as a work laptop. I'm probably going to get a personal version for personal use, which is probably going to go for the 4K OLED, which will be touch. This is not touch, whereas obviously the Dell is touch, which is quite nice. But this makes quite a lot of noise when it's running a test. Probably, if I start the multi-core test here, you can probably hear it straight away. Let's see where it's going. It's running. Fan should kick in now. Fans are really wearing. So if I stop that test and run the same test on the Dell, let's just wait for the Dell XPS to calm down. Okay, it's still a bit noisy. It's quietening down. And it's pretty much stopped making noise. And if I run the same test on the Dell, I really can't hear anything at all. There's no audible sound at all. Oh yeah, I can just about hear the fan kicking in. Actually, just about the only time I've heard the Dell fans really rev up hard is when I've been upgrading the BIOS, and I think this is like a diagnostic. And just to make sure I'm on the Dell Power Manager. In Dell Power Manager, which is the Dell software that comes to manage the power profiles. I probably stop this test. Don't know why Power Manager takes a while to come up. That's pretty abysmal. Come on, what are you, written an Electron? Come on. Wow. Yeah, I mean this doesn't seem normal really. But in terms of thermal management, I've got it set to ultra performance. Processor and cooling fans increase for more performance. So I've had this set the whole time, and I've had it plugged in on charge the whole time. Even though it's plugged in, and just down here on the battery as well, you know, like it's set to best performance. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know why the Dell is not performing as well as the Dell, the X1 XPS. The other thing I'm really not loving about the Dell XPS right now is this glossy screen. You can see here the reflection of the bulb behind me. You can see that here on the matte screen of the X1 Extreme, but it's obviously not as distracting. Yeah, so I know that when I go to the 4K OLED on the X1 Extreme, it's going to be a glossy screen as well, but I've come to quite like the touch screen, so I'm not really sure. You know, maybe I'll regret going for the OLED touch, and I'd be better off with the IPS matte screen that I've got here. But I don't know, I've really come to like touch screens. Anyway, now I'm waffling. I just wanted to show you the BIOS version number. Here we go, this is on the Dell XPS. It's version 1.4, 14th of August 2020. And do I have CPU Z over here? I don't have CPU-Z installed over here, but actually I can probably show you this in Lenovo's own software. The Lenovo Vantage. Is this a piece of crap? Oh, might have to hide my serial number. I don't want any device details. Yeah. So if I just cover up the serial number, go here, look, BIOS version 1.11. So that's what's running on the Dell X1 Extreme Gen 3, and seeing way better performance on this laptop, even though it's noisier. But the thing I've noticed about the Dell X1 Extreme Gen 3 is the fans only seem to really hit hard when you're plugged in. When you're running on battery, you can hit the CPU quite hard, and the fans don't really hit off, go crazy. But I guess you get less performance then. I actually haven't run this test, the Cinebench test, with the power unplugged. It's something I might want to do.